Jeremy, thank you very much for joining us. So before I ask you about disruption in general, here's an interesting situation, right? Dell and you, EMC, used to work together once upon a time. You had built a good business, yet you broke apart, and then now you're coming back together. What are the two or three things that are driving this partnership? I mean, which of course is a much more structured one because it'll be a merger or a takeover.
Yeah, I mean, what we hear time and time again from our large customers, and EMC, I mean, large enterprises, our sweet spot is, look, they want to do more business with fewer vendors. Every large IT organization is under some kind of cost pressure. One of the ways to alleviate that is to do more business with fewer suppliers. So we think bringing the two companies together can really create a tech powerhouse that can address that for our customers. Second thing as well, though, we do see IT departments going away from buying component parts and wanting to buy a more integrated or a more converged solution. And so, with Dell, obviously there's a great compute platform there, EMC storage platform. We can now solve more of the problem for the customer from the get-go.
Right. Could you illustrate this from a customer's point of view? So let's say it's a big bank. What was the bank or a telecom company looking for which actually necessitated the same thing that you just spoke of?
Well, I mean, financial services is a great example because you talk about that industry, it's probably never going to be the same again. You have IT departments that are under huge cost pressure. They maybe have had separate agreements with many vendors in the past. If they could consolidate that spend to a combined Dell EMC, they could probably get more product and more services for less money. So that's one example. The second thing is they may be buying component parts. I'm going to buy a server from company X, I'm going to buy storage from company Y, I'm going to have an internal team assemble those together into a platform that's going to run my applications. Well, we could do all of that from the factory. So it should save the bank or whoever time and money getting infrastructure in place.
Right. So if you were to look a little ahead now, so what are the new trends that are in some ways affecting the way they do business or the way their customers are demanding services from them, which will affect the combined entity if it were to be the Dell EMC?
Yeah, I mean, look, every business is going to be a digital business, right? Every industry, every country. That's the ultimate business driver. So these companies now are building new software, new functionality to bring their services direct to consumers or to make their products smarter and constantly connected and collaborating. A lot of these new applications are requiring a different and a new kind of infrastructure. So a lot of organizations are going to go through an entire data center modernization cycle over the next few years. So, EMC, we're a unique company. There's the EMC infrastructure business that most people know, but we've also got things like VMware, like Pivotal in the portfolio. And so we can engage a lot of these companies in their digital transformation, and then at the same time, we can engage with them about modernizing the data center infrastructure as well. Right. So, but digital is really the business driver. The infrastructure and the data center is the back end and the plumbing of that. And what we want to do is we want to help the customer do both.
Right. So the customer's customer. I mean, what would be the one or two disruptive things that could happen or are happening already now, which could again cause the whole downstream change and reaction?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're all consumers, right? So me personally, am the customer of some of EMC's customers. And look, whether it's the car I drive, what do I expect from that car? Well, I'm going to expect location-based services. I'm going to expect it to be personalized. I'm going to expect it to drive itself. I'm going to expect a frictionless experience, and an information-rich experience in my car. That's forcing every auto manufacturer to write software because software is the magic that delivers that for the consumer. So, consumers ultimately, they're going to demand that every car operates that way. And you see that in banking. I don't want to have to go into the branch. I want to be able to do everything on my mobile phone. You see it in healthcare. Why can't I deal directly with the doctor? Why can't I get a video session going with the doctor? Why do I have to come into the doctor's office to get diagnosed? Why can't I do it from my home? So we as consumers are getting used to this frictionless environment where everything is immediately available. That really is the digital revolution that is forcing companies to get back into the software development business. That's causing a knock-on effect and forcing people to modernize their infrastructure.
So do you think that the shifts that are being caused because of these trends are more significant than the shifts that we've seen, let's say, in the last 2 decades?
I do, and the reason why now is I think it's a fundamentally different way of doing business. I look at the last 15 or 20 years, there have definitely been incremental improvements in the way business has been done. But now, and I think the mobile device is at the forefront of this, and I use mobile device in the very generic term, not just a smartphone. You know, a car can be it is a mobile and intelligent device. I think it is revolutionizing the way that we live, we work, and the way we interact with businesses. And the companies that don't operate that way, I think are going to struggle to make a business, 5, 10 years from now. So the threat is that someone who is in business today and doing quite nicely, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, could be really struggling for its very existence.
Right. Last question. We've been talking about the death of competition as we know it, because you just don't know where the next, dose of competition will come from. It's not even on your radar screen today. Is that something that affects what you're doing as well, or are you a beneficiary either way?
No, it does affect us, right? I mean, there was this little bookseller called Amazon 10 years ago. They're in the infrastructure business. They want to run enterprise workloads. So we find ourselves competing with someone who, 5 or 10 years ago didn't seem like a competitor. And so we've got to up our game. How do we compete? How do we differentiate ourselves? How do we get more intimate with our customers? How do we deliver that public cloud-like experience in the enterprise data center? So yeah, it absolutely does affect EMC in the tech industry.
Right. So what's the new company going to be called?
To be determined. We're obviously at this phase where we're doing all the planning, and obviously until you actually close the deal, you can't really make too many decisions. But I'm sure there'll be a Dell in the name somewhere. Michael Dell is, it's his surname. He's quite happy, I think, with his surname. So I'm sure Dell will feature there somewhere.
Right. Jeremy, thank you so much for speaking with us.
All right, thank you.